Well, Sean, as we've discussed, the left and the media have been promoting this idea that mail-in ballots is safe and secure, but the facts are proving otherwise. As The Hill reports, 7 military ballots cast for Trump were found discarded in Pennsylvania. You know, with this information, what's not to say this won't happen more and more as the election gets closer? Yeah. To discuss, let's bring in our company, Derek Hunter, host of the Derek Hunter podcast, and Benny Johnson, host of the Benny Report, which is debuting on Newsmax tomorrow. Congratulations, Benny. Derek, good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Congratulations, Benny.
Benny? We're not going to be mailing it in.
Oh,
nice. God.
Nice.
No wonder it's on Saturday.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
All right, guys. As Lindsay said, look, absentee ballots are one thing. I've used them before. There's a lot of ways in which we ensure the integrity of that. But with this whole mail-in thing that the president's saying, where they just send everyone a ballot, there's problems. And I think that we see that in the media over and over again. They continue to talk about how there are no problems. It's not to say that there's a bunch of widespread fraud, but there are problems. CNN political correspondent Abby Phillips, I want to show you a tweet that she put out. She said, after the thing that Lindsay just described in Pennsylvania, she said the DOJ describes this as a small number of ballots. Specifically, the number was 9. The investigation ongoing into what this is all about. But again, this is not widespread evidence of fraud. Well, I tweeted back at her because I just wanted to be clear. And I responded, 9 ballots cast by military members were discarded in a crucial swing state. How many more will it take before it's an issue for CNN? Well, which I thought is a fair question, because if she's going to say it's not a big deal, well, then Abby kind of responded to me. And she said, we've reported on these ballots and the misinformation about the case initially put out by DOJ. We are waiting for more clarity about what happened here. You should too, Sean, which I'm not really sure that that was the question I asked. So then I responded. I just said, well, it was your tweet that declared, there is no evidence. Derek Hunter, the thing that I find fascinating is that clearly is a problem, what happened there. And that's just one small example of it. And yet the media isn't saying, hey, it's not widespread. They're making it very clear that there is, quote, no evidence of problems here.
What's amazing to me, Sean, is what you don't find when you specifically don't look for it.
Yeah.
It's like, if I'm not looking, every time we get one of these cases, it is met with, well, this is just an isolated incident. They say there's no voter fraud. Then you say, well, 12 people were just indicted over here for voter fraud. Well, that's different. It's a very isolated case. Like when they say that, when you point out an American was murdered by an illegal immigrant, they say, well, that's a very isolated case. Well, what number of dead Americans are you cool with? What number of disenfranchised Americans, either through ineptitude and laziness on behalf of the post office or straight up fraud, are you cool with? And they never have an answer because, well, they never go close enough to anybody to actually ask that question.
Yeah. But Benny, it's not just Abby Phillips, as you've probably seen many others, but I want to show you a few who have actually said this in the news. Take a listen.
There may be a perception that mail-in balloting helps Democrats. The research that we looked at said that that's not the case.
The system this year is as reliable as it's ever been.
President Trump really doubled down on his voter fraud claims, saying the biggest threat to this election is governors from opposing parties controlling ballots, a threat, he says, that's bigger than that from foreign countries. How do we wrap our mind around that?
It is just not true.
Just not true. What about those 1.6 thousand uncounted New Jersey ballots that were found in the mislabeled bin, Benny? What about those?
Right. So it's an incredible thing that happens these days in what we used to be known as media. It is called Activate Rapid Response. Activate our rapid response team. It's a wonderful tool to have as a DNC apparatchik, where you can just make sure that every single portal of mass media is repeating your talking points. It happens all the time. And they ask you, what are you going to believe, us or your lying eyes? This happened in Obamagate when they said, oh, no, it's just surveillance. It isn't spying. It happens here when they're saying, oh, this isn't fraud. It's just a couple ballots here. It's a couple ballots there. This is a party that regularly and often talks about silencing voices. You saw this in the Me Too movement. You see this regularly in the BLM movement. You stop trying to silence our voices. It's just very peculiar, as Derek pointed out, that there seems to be a threshold of voices that they're willing to silence. Is 9 enough? Is 10? Does that make a baker's dozen? How many military men and women should we silence until that's enough? How many? It really is a shocking thing, and to downplay this is egregious. You hear often from the other side that just generalized gaslighting that's happening is just egregious, that there is voter suppression. This is something that's regularly said in states like Georgia, states like Florida. Whenever they don't win, it's called voter suppression. The governor of Georgia, Stacey Abrams, has said this many times from her governor's mansion that she definitely lives in, because she's definitely the governor of Georgia. It's just incredible that when it's on the other side, it doesn't matter.
Well, and Derek, to pick up on what Benny was saying, I mean, you've heard me say this on the show before, but if you look at a state like Michigan, Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton by 0.2%. It was 10,703 votes. The first race I ran for someone for Congress in Connecticut, we lost by 2 votes on election night. So to Benny's point, how many votes matter? How many military votes matter before it's a big enough deal?
Well, it's like the old joke out of St. Louis. You keep the polls open until you have enough votes to win. That's it. So how many votes? Enough to win. That's it. Now in Michigan, I grew up in Michigan. The rules have changed. Somehow we magically, for more than 200 years, managed to vote all on the same day. Now we get a month. We get to take our time. You don't have to show any ID. You can just show up and state a name and an address you remembered, and you can take a week after the election to throw your ballot into the mailbox.
Yeah.
So you count votes until you win, and then you stop counting. It's what they tried to do in Florida in 2000, if you remember.
I do.
They wanted, as soon as they were getting ahead, they wanted it over with. They just wanted it over with the second they won, quote unquote. They're going to do that on a national scale.
I'm telling you,
they don't
I've been
need
saying
to do
this.
it very many
Watch
places.
These mail-in votes, Derek, I'm telling you, watch what happens after election night. Trump's going to win big on election night, and then they're going to try to claw their way back. I guarantee it.
Coming up, 2 consecutive wins in the company quiz. Can I get 3 in a row? The company quiz is right after the break. We hope that you'll stay and play along.